Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of sources, articles, research notes, and basically pull out the gold so you don't have to wade through it all.
Think of us as your guides, helping you navigate through sometimes complex information, connect the dots, and hopefully find those aha moments.
So today we're diving deep into some really fascinating material that one of our listeners shared. It's centered around excerpts from a book called Doctor Who, Blood and Hope by Iain McLaughlin.
Right.
Now, you might hear Doctor Who and think, okay, fiction, but this book uses that framework to tell a very real, very human story. It's set during one of the most pivotal and frankly painful periods in American history, the Civil War.
Exactly. And what we have isn't just like bits of the novel.
Yeah.
That provides the narrative thread, sure, but woven all around it are these incredibly rich additions,
Yeah.
like a foreword by writer John Ostrander, who actually has a personal connection to this history.
Mm.
We've got historical documents like the Declaration of Independence, the South Carolina Declaration of Secession,
Wow.
private letters between characters, which are just heart-wrenching sometimes, and even audio diary entries that give these really personal, varied perspectives on the same events. It's quite a collection.
So our mission today is to unpack all of this. We want to understand the complex causes and the devastating human cost of the American Civil War seen through these different lenses.
Mm-hmm.
We want to see how these seemingly small personal stories intersect with these huge historical events and explore those enduring themes:
Yeah.
conflict, trauma, and maybe the possibility of healing.
It really is a powerful set of materials. You get the broad historical context, but also these intensely personal insights right alongside it.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Right, so where do we start? Maybe with the roots of the conflict. The sources really frame it well.
Yeah, that foreword by John Ostrander you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
he puts it really clearly. This wasn't just a four-year war, 1861 to 65. He sees it as something with roots stretching way, way back, like to the very founding of the Republic.
And he highlights that central, agonizing paradox, doesn't he?
He does. A nation founded on this principle that all men are created equal. And that quote's right there in the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776, which we have in the
So
sources.
simultaneously built with this massive compromise.
Slavery.
Exactly. Built right in.
And you see how that paradox plays out politically? The South Carolina Declaration of Secession, that's from December 24th, 1860, it just lays out their justification very explicitly.
How so?
Well, they focus intensely on states' rights,
Yeah.
being violated by the federal government, northern states interfering with their domestic institutions, which was their phrase for slavery.
Right.
They frame the North's actions as, like, denying property rights, calling slavery sinful, backing abolitionist groups, helping slaves escape, even inciting insurrection. It's this clear assertion that their whole way of life, their economy, everything centered on slavery was under existential threat.
And the economics were just so deeply tangled up in it, weren't they? Oh, completely. Ostrander mentions the cotton gin, how it just turbocharged the profitability of slavery,
Yeah.
made it absolutely central to the Southern economy.
And there's that letter from Will Johnson, the young guy writing from Massachusetts in December 1860.
Yeah, that's striking.
He estimates the value of enslaved people at, what, around $2 billion in 1860 money?
Which is staggering. And it highlights this painful truth, doesn't it? The sheer perceived financial value of human beings was so immense, it just overshadowed the moral argument for so many.
Yeah.
It fueled this desperate fear of economic ruin.
You can see how that fear drove them towards secession.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Will's letter adds another layer, too. He mentions it wasn't just about slavery for every single person, though slavery was obviously the root cause.
Right.
He overhears guys on a train furious about Northern interference, feeling like they were being, quote, taxing the South to death while stamping on its traditional way of life.
So it's economic fear mixed with this resentment, this feeling of being culturally pushed around.
Exactly. And then comes the trigger.
Lincoln's election, 1860.
Right. Now, Lincoln's own words from 1858, which are in the sources, show he'd long seen slavery as a moral, a social, and a political wrong. Something that had to be contained, aiming for its ultimate extinction.
But his main public goal, at first anyway, was just keeping the Union together, wasn't it?
Yes, preserving the Union was paramount for him initially, but the South Carolina Declaration shows how they interpreted his election.
They didn't buy the preserve the Union line.
Not at all. They saw him elected by a sectional party, inherently hostile to slavery. They quoted his own words back, "Cannot endure permanently half slave, half free. Slavery must be put in the course of ultimate extinction." For them, the writing was on the wall. They didn't wait. They fired on Fort Sumter.
And this huge national tension just rips apart individual lives. Those letters between the friends Will Johnson in the North and Paul Laval in the South, they're just heartbreaking.
Not they. In December 1860, Will's still hoping politicians will see sense, find some compromise.
He even suggests, like, extending slavery for 10 or 20 or 50 years more just to keep the economy calm, even though he feels ashamed, setting more stock by finance than the worth of human lives.
It shows the desperation to avoid conflict. He ends it saying, "We're all Americans," hoping they'll laugh about their fears soon.
But then Paul's reply from South Carolina, February 61, the tone is completely different.
Utter dread, state after state seceding. He says he's not a U.S. citizen anymore. He's part of the Confederate States of America.
Wow.
He asks Will if he's a traitor, feels he doesn't belong but can't leave, dreading the idea of fighting Will, and he's disturbed by the relish some Southerners have for the coming fight, wanting to give the North a bloody nose.
It shows how fast it went from political crisis to this deeply personal horror.
And then boom, that official order, April 12th, 1861. It's in the sources. Summons Paul, former West Point cadet, to report for Confederate service.
Just like that. The choice is made for him, really. Shattering that friendship, forcing them onto opposite sides.
And the pressure on young men then. There's that diary entry from Hillary Makepeace Buckley, May 1861.
What does it say?
Basically, it's the duty of all young men to defend their homes and families. And anyone who doesn't should be shunned and pilloried in public for the cowards they are.
Imagine being Paul, feeling so torn, but facing that kind of social pressure? Immense.
Yeah. So that's the backdrop. This rapidly escalating conflict, tearing the nation and friendships apart, and right into this.
Or is it Dr. Peri and Erimem?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Peri's audio diary entry just throws us, and of them, right into the deep end. She describes landing the TARDIS near a farm, stumbling out, and immediately there's trouble.
What kind of trouble?
The doctor's trying to help a runaway enslaved family escape from a barn, just as a Confederate officer, a Reb officer, she calls him, is about to set the barn on fire.
Wow, straight into the action.
And this is where the reality of the Civil War just hits Peri and Erimem hard. Seeing Confederate soldiers shooting at the doctor, shooting at this escaping family, Peri realizes instantly they're right in the middle of it. But then comes the truly terrifying realization. As a soldier gets closer, she looks at Erimem, who's black, and thinks, they won't see her as a person, a traveler from somewhere else. They'll just see, not white, that would be all that mattered to them.
Chilling.
She says she felt more scared than ever before.
Meh.
Hissing at Erimem to stay quiet, let her do the talking. It just immediately slams home the racial core of the war and the very real personal danger Erimem is in.
Who's the officer?
Colonel Gibble Eustace. He's with a limping lieutenant. Peri clocks Eustace immediately dangerous, switches from angry shooter to this disgusting wannabe gentleman.
Okay, Eustace. Remember that name.
Definitely. And here's where the threads around Paul Laval start to tighten, really tragically.
How so?
We had this letter from Paul's father, Philip Laval, written December 1861. He's heard from Paul's commanding officer. Paul's apparently failing as an officer speaking out against the war, questioning orders.
Oh, dear.
He only avoided court-martial because a friend stepped in. His father is furious, calls his behavior unacceptable and a disgrace. And then the letter says Paul's being transferred because he's seen as unfit for regular duty. Transferred to the command of Colonel Jubal Eustace.
No! The guy from the barn.
The very same.
Yeah.
And his specific duty under Eustace, recapturing runaway slaves.
Oh, that's just awful, given his own likely feelings.
Exactly. And his father actually hopes this harsh man Eustace will sort of beat some discipline into him. It's a grim picture of where Paul is mentally and physically early in the war.
So fast forward a few years.
Right, to February 1865.
Yeah.
Near the end of the war, Will Johnson, back with the Union Army now, writes a letter. He's been actively trying to find news of Paul. Here's about a Lieutenant Laval near the Confederate lines.
Will goes looking for him.
Yeah, takes a huge risk.
Yeah.
Goes behind enemy lines, out of uniform, faking a Southern accent, just desperate to find his friend.
And does he?
He does. And it's during this incredibly risky search that Will sees the doctor for the first time.
Huh?
Describes him as a strange, light-haired man in the white clothes, coming out of a weird, dark blue box with a light on top.
The TARDIS. Through Will's eyes.
Perfect description, right. Will sees the doctor arrive at that barn, the same barn encounter Peri described just as Eustace is about to torch it. Sees the doctor help the family escape by bringing the hayloft down on Eustace and Paul.
So Will sees Paul there with Eustace.
Yes, he sees Paul come out of the barn after Eustace. And Will's description, it's devastating. He says Paul looks old, Claire. Old and done.
Oh, man.
Filthy, skinny, a shambling limp. But the worst part, his eyes. Dead eyes, Will calls them. Eyes that have seen too much where nothing registered, like a walking corpse.
God, the trauma.
Will is terrified by what a man in that state might do. He decides he can't tell Paul's cousin Abby the full truth about how bad Paul looks, just says he's alive.
It's amazing how these different sources, the official transfer, Peri's first impression, Will's later account, all layer together to paint this picture of Paul's decline under Eustace.
It really shows the crushing psychological weight of the war, doesn't it?
It definitely. Okay, so after that barn escape, what happens to Peri and Erimem?
Well, they find themselves trying to lie low in the Confederate South, specifically a town called Buckley, Virginia. Peri's diary mentions their plan was just to wait out the war there.
Because she knows it's ending soon.
Exactly. She knows from her history the South will surrender within weeks. They have gold, the doctor left them, but it's not easy. Their landlady, Mrs. Makepeace, is described as a sour old crone who hates Northerners and, pointedly, hates Erimem, always snooping.
But the real danger is Eustace, right? He knows they were at the barn.
Yes, Colonel Eustace is the main threat. Peri knows he's dangerous, greedy. She tries to put him off by inventing a fiancé, Dr. John Smith.
Does it work?
For a bit. But then, late March 1865, Eustace comes back. He's suspicious. He's clearly done some digging.
Uh-oh.
We actually have a letter from a Captain Jackson Price confirming Eustace asked him to check Confederate records for a Dr. John Smith. Found nothing. But Price had heard about a Dr. John Smith helping the Union Army.
So Eustace knows.
He confronts Peri, presses her for details, makes it chillingly clear he knows she's lying and thinks she's a Union spy.
Terrifying.
Peri describes his rage just building until he explodes shouting, except that he never existed. Gets right in her face, spitting, yelling, "Your Dr. John Smith rides with the Union and we execute spies."
Oh my God, what do they do?
Well, this is where things take a turn. Peri needs a distraction. Fast. And Erimem, without a word, grabs a heavy iron poker.
And hits him.
Hits him hard. Peri is May's notes. Erimem's lack of fear, her skill, swings it like a sword. Peri realizes she was trained to fight like this. A real glimpse into Erimem's past.
Wow. So they knock him out.
They tie him up and get out of Buckley. Fast. They head towards Richmond, figuring that's where the Union Army is, where the doctor might be.
And where are Will and the doctor?
They've actually joined Union troops near Richmond around early April 1st. Will notes the doctor was convinced Peri and Erimem would head there if Peri knew her history. So Will agrees to help the doctor search. Partly, Will admits, hoping to find Paul, but also wanting to, settle the score with Eustace if he'd hurt Paul.
And they have help searching.
Crucial help. Private Moses Smith. He's a formerly enslaved man who was recently seconded to Will's command.
Why was he seconded?
There's a letter from a General Heggie confirming it was because Will played an active part in the emancipation of Moses. It shows how Will himself has changed through the war.
That's significant.
Hugely. Will describes Moses as having invaluable local knowledge, knows the routes, the slave railroad network. And Will reflects on his own change, admits he never thought at the start of the war he'd call a Negro private his friend. But he says Moses is quick-witted, finds humor in things, and is incredibly proud to wear the Union blue. It's a powerful little insight into prejudice breaking down through shared experience.
So all these characters are heading towards Richmond.
Exactly. And it all converges there in early April 1865. Peri and Erimem arrive. They expect ruin, devastation. Instead, they find this almost street carnival atmosphere, especially among the large black population. They're celebrating the Union takeover. Peri writes, "These people were somebody's property just days before, and now they see change coming. Freedom."
Must have been incredible.
She compares it to the liberation of Paris or ancient celebrations after a battle. Says people just need to celebrate, even amidst destruction.
And then they hear it.
The chant. Lincoln. President Lincoln has arrived.
Yeah.
Walking through the streets, largely unescorted.
Wow.
Peri calls him a legend. Says the black crowds looked at him like he may as well have walked into the harbor atop the water. They just see his tall hat moving above the crowd.
And Will, Moses, and the doctor are there too.
Yes, Will sees him too. Describes the president 2 heads taller than any of those around him. An almost solitary white face in this sea of cheering black faces. Like a messiah, Will writes.
An amazing moment.
But then it breaks. Moses yells, points.
What? What does he see?
A man. Torn Confederate uniform. Rifle. Aiming right at Lincoln. Will and Moses can't get a shot off. The crowd's too thick. But the doctor, he reacts instantly. spurs his horse forward, knocks the musket right out of the man's hands, splinters it.
Incredible. The doctor saves Lincoln.
He prevents the assassination attempt right there. But then the crowd turns on the would-be assassin, starts beating him.
Oh, mob justice.
Yeah, Will feels pity. The doctor struggles to stop the lynching. Then Lincoln himself arrives on the scene, calm as anything.
What does he do?
Asks the guy, "Were you going to shoot me?" Then looks the crowd trying to save him, asks, "Are you saving my life now?" Extends his hand to the attacker, tells him to get up.
This is
Says, "Enough Americans have died in this war already. I see no need for you to join their number." Just astonishing grace. Moses takes the man into custody.
unbelievable moment.
Lincoln then turns to the doctor, and Will tells them they're his escort now. Even jokes, "Could I be any safer than I will be with an army captain on one side of me and a doctor on the other?"
Huh. But wait, Eustace.
Right. Just as they're with the president, Moses Smith rushes up. Urgent news. He saw Peri and Erimem in Richmond hours ago, but he also saw Jubal Eustace and his limping lieutenant arrive just an hour after them.
Oh, no. They're still in danger.
The chase is definitely back on.
So, the doctor hears Eustace is close behind Peri and Erimem. What's the immediate plan?
He wants to go straight to Cassius Eldon's house. Moses thinks that's where they'd head. It was a known safe house on the Underground Railroad, right? A place they'd feel secure.
Makes sense.
President Lincoln actually offers troops to help. They compromise on 6 soldiers. It's another one of those moments showing Lincoln's character. Before they go, he tells Will something like, "Little could be of more importance to a man than his family." And he says to the doctor, recognizing his, underlying sadness, "Enjoy this time, every moment of it." Like he sees something deeper in the doctor.
Interesting. So, were Peri and Erimem at Eldon's house?
They were. They got let in by George Williams, the formerly enslaved man they'd met. He's caught up in the celebration despite his terrible injury, having only half a foot, remember. Lost his punishment for trying to escape.
Right, George. Is Eldon there?
No, George says Eldon's out warning people that Eustace is in town.
So they know Eustace is near.
Yes, and George also tells them that Moses Smith and Captain Will Johnson were just there looking for them with a doctor friend.
Ah, so close.
Realizing they just missed the doctor is a shock. And hearing Eustace's name again, Peri describes this chill. George wants them to wait. It's dangerous out, but they're determined. They want to find the doctor, feel safer doing that than just waiting. They decide to head for Jeff Davis's house, where they think the doctor might be.
Okay, so George takes them to the barn for their horses.
Yes. But as they get there, Peri feels that dread again. Something's not right. Erimem notices the teenage boy, Michael, who was supposed to be looking after the horses, isn't there.
Oh, this sounds bad.
Meanwhile, Will and the doctor arrive back at Eldon's house. See the horses outside the barn. Relief, but then a single gunshot from inside the barn.
No.
The doctor reacts instantly, tells Will his plan. He'll go in the front, create a distraction. Will and Moses should take the troopers around back, through a window.
Okay, inside the barn. What happened? Peri's diary must cover this.
It does. It's horrific.
Yeah.
Eustace found them. He shot George Williams, dead.
Oh, George.
Then Peri writes, Eustace aimed his pistol right at Erimem. Said those awful words, "You like your nigger so much. How much will you like watching her die?" Pulled the hammer back. Erimem just stood there, unflinching.
God.
And then Peri sees a flash of white. The doctor bursts in, calm, incredibly calm, says, "I'd really rather you didn't shoot my friend."
Just walks in.
Just walks in, recognizing Eustace from the first barn encounter.
Yeah.
Eustace recognizes him too. And Eustace just rages, spitting out that vile word, nigger, ranting about black people being property like a plow or an ox. Just pure, raw hatred.
How does the doctor handle that?
Stays outwardly calm. Says he chooses to spend his time with decent people, no matter the color of their skin. Tells Eustace to stop using that disgusting word. But Peri notices his voice gets cold, threatening, a dangerous side she hasn't seen often.
So Eustace can't bully him.
No, which makes Eustace even more furious. He turns a gun on the doctor, says he'll enjoy killing him.
This is so tense.
The doctor doesn't flinch. Asks Eustace if he's ready to die. Warns him, "My good friend Moses will shoot you." And right at that moment, Peri sees the limping lieutenant enter the barn.
Crawl.
She realizes it's him, the same ragged soldier Moses had escorted earlier.
Okay, so Will's letter must pick it up from here, coming in the back.
Exactly. Will and Moses get into the barn. They see the doctor facing off against Eustace, Eustace's gun now on the doctor after being on Erimem. Will sees the limping lieutenant, instantly recognizes Paul.
Does Paul see him?
Yes, Paul sees Will, recognizes him. But Will writes, "Paul could not look at me." Will thinks it's shame that Paul could not bear to see my face, the horror I felt at what he had become. Will tries to use their connection. Yells at Eustace, "Paul won't shoot me, Eustace. It is your cousin." The doctor picks it up. He won't shoot Will because Will is his family.
Does it work?
No, Eustace just screams at Paul. Coward, disgrace, kill Will.
Oh, God. Will must be desperate.
He tries to reach Paul directly. "It's Will, Paul. You know it's me. The war's almost over. There's no need for more killing." But Paul's gun stays up, eyes on the ground. Will's fury turns to Eustace, this crazy, evil man who just enjoyed the misery the war allowed. Will sees the scar on Paul's face, wonders what other tortures Eustace inflicted. He yells at Eustace, "You did this to him. You turned him into this."
The confrontation is peaking.
The doctor tries one last time, tells Eustace it's over. Gun on him, 6 troopers outside, the Confederacy's finished. Eustace just explodes. To hell with the Confederacy, damns them all as cowards and weaklings.
And then who shoots?
This is where Peri's diary fills the gap. She had found an old pistol earlier. After Eustace's final outburst, she shoots him.
Peri shoots Eustace.
Yes, she confirms it in her diary.
Wow, okay, so Eustace is down. What happens next? Will's letter again.
Yes. Will describes the silence, the shock. The doctor goes straight to Peri, gently takes the pistol, leads her and Erimem away. Paul. Paul just stands over Eustace's body, staring. Will tells Moses not to fire, but Paul lowers his own pistol and, Will says, with great deliberation, empties it 6 shots into Eustace's corpse.
Oh my God.
And he turns to Moses, extends his empty gun hand, whispers, "I surrender." Moses takes the gun, Paul adds, "I'm sorry," and then he just breaks, sobbing uncontrollably. Will says he was so broken that he just held him, trying not to weep himself.
What an absolutely brutal, tragic climax.
Utterly devastated, the culmination of years of trauma.
So the immediate aftermath, George Williams is dead.
Yes, tragic loss. The young boy, Michael, who was missing from the barn, turns out he's alive, just injured. He'll recover. Moses Smith got nicked in the shoulder, but he's okay.
But the real injuries are deeper, aren't they? For Paul and Peri especially.
Absolutely, the non-physical ones. Will does something risky. He breaks regulations, takes Paul to a commandeered hotel, not to prison stockade.
Why?
He insists the doctor examine Paul, trusts him more than an army medic. He maybe wants to protect Paul. And the doctor's examination, Will describes it. Paul is horrifyingly skinny, covered in bruises, many shapes like boot marks, almost certainly from Eustace.
Oh, that's sickening.
And there's this deep, festering gash on his leg, filled with maggots. The doctor says it would have killed him if left untreated. He cleans it with great gentleness and care, applies a poultice. The physical state is just appalling, a mirror of the internal damage.
And Peri, how is she coping after killing Eustace?
Not well. Not well at all. The doctor treats her too. She has a concussion, but she's deeply traumatized. When she wakes up, she screams at Erimem, doesn't want to talk about the barn, keeps seeing Eustace's face, Erimem's face when she closes her eyes. She just pulls away from everyone, including the doctor.
That must be hard for Erimem.
Very hard. Erimem is deeply concerned, barely leaves Peri's side, even when Peri lashes out. But Erimem's also confused by Peri's reaction.
Confused how?
In her audio diary, Erimem reflects on it. She says she's killed people herself in battle, even up close with a spear or sword, and she feels no shame. It was war, self-defense, protecting her people. She struggles to understand why Peri, from a supposedly more advanced time, is so shattered by killing this man who is clearly evil and trying to kill them. She wonders if it's just, different values from different times.
That's a fascinating cultural perspective. What does the doctor say?
He tries to explain to Erimem that healing wounds of the heart and mind can take longer than body. He thinks Peri is struggling specifically with the act of taking a life, saying it's not an easy thing for her. And Erimem notices the doctor talks about this with a kind of sadness. She guesses maybe he's killed many times himself over his long life, but hated it every time. Gives a little insight into the doctor's own burdens.
And Paul, what's his state beyond the physical?
The doctor calls it a worst case of the same thing as Peri. Basically, profound PTSD. Erimem recognizes it. She's seen warriors in her time frozen by horror after battle, sometimes just fading away. Paul's condition, the dead eyes, eating like an animal, the nightmares, it terrifies Peri more than anything. She sees him as someone who's had the life sucked from them by the war, a living mourning.
It sounds like Erim is a real source of strength, though.
She really is. Will observes her, notes her genuine and touching concern for Peri. He sees her dignity, like royalty. And later, when Erimem asks Will how Paul is doing, she's genuinely pleased that he was mending, showing real compassion despite the horror Paul was part of.
Does Peri start to come around?
Slowly, yes, she starts to process it. Realizes Erimem isn't to blame for Eustace, for his hate. She remembers Erimem's terror in the barn, but also that Peri herself saved Erimem twice. She gets this sense that she needs to be strong for both of them to not end up broken like Paul. She wants to move forward, help Erimem forget.
So how do they reconnect?
Erimem makes the move, still hurt by Peri pushing her away, but she tries, brings Peri coffee, and they have this incredibly powerful, honest conversation.
What does Erimem say?
She tells Peri straight, I am not sorry that you killed him. Because Eustace was evil, she understood he enjoyed hurting people, not for any cause, but just because the war led him. She reminds Peri he tried to kill Erimem twice, and Peri saved her both times. And then she takes Peri's hand and just says, thank you for my life.
Wow, that's direct.
And it works. That raw honesty, that gratitude, it cuts through Peri's trauma. Peri describes just hugging Erimem, both of them crying, finally letting go of all the tension and horror. That shared vulnerability seems to be the key. It mends the break between them, shows how vital that connection, that support is for healing.
So while they're starting this personal healing, the larger conflict is ending.
Exactly. History marches on. The sources include those formal letters between Grant and Lee, April 9th, 1865, the surrender at Appomattox Courthouse. The fighting is officially done.
And Lincoln gives his last speech.
Just 2 days later, April 11th, his final public address. And it's remarkable. He doesn't get bogged down in legal arguments about whether the Confederate States technically left the Union.
What's his focus?
Pure pragmatism, getting them back into proper practical relation. He urges everyone to join in doing the acts necessary for restoration. Let people argue the legal theories later, he says. Right now, it's about unity, rebuilding, putting the pieces back together.
A forward-looking message. How does Will reflect on this time?
His letter from May 5th, 1865 gives us a glimpse. He's writing back towards Gable, presumably his home area with the doctor and Paul. He says the war ending, followed by Lincoln's assassination, it's left people just bewildered, lost.
Understandable.
Will's thinking of leaving the army. Says he's worn this uniform long enough, wants no reminder of this damned war.
Does he feel Lincoln's loss personally?
Deeply. He says if Lincoln were still alive, he might have stayed in. He saw Lincoln interact with whites and coloreds alike, felt he could have followed that vision. But with Lincoln gone, that drive has faded. On a personal note, his father finally got the letters about Paul's family all being dead and took it badly after hoping for so long. The sense of loss is profound on every level.
And Will is still focused on Paul's recovery.
Desperately. He asks the doctor to take Paul to that place of tranquility wherever the doctor is taking Peri and Erimem to heal.
Does the doctor agree?
He's hesitant at first, but Will is determined, ready to push and argue. He believes the doctor can help Paul in a way others can't. It shows Will's loyalty, his refusal to give up on his friend.
And does Paul go? Does he get better?
He does go, and it does recover, at least somewhat. Peri's final diary entry describes meeting him there. He's clearly better, though maybe not fully healed.
How is their interaction?
There's this lovely, empathetic moment. Paul starts to say something about having met them before, clearly remembering the barn. But Erimem gently cuts him off, saying, I am sure we have never met before, but I am pleased to meet you now.
Oh, sparing him the memory.
Exactly. Peri understands immediately it's to save him the guilt. Paul picks up the cue, apologizes for his mistake, says it's a pleasure to meet them now. Peri shakes his hand. She feels if she deserves a chance to move on after the barn, so does he. It's a quiet, powerful moment of acceptance. Maybe not full forgiveness yet, but acceptance.
Peri still seems to be wrestling with things, though.
Yeah, she asked the doctor that difficult question. Why could you help Paul recover, but you couldn't save President Lincoln?
And his answer?
Classic doctor. We can't change history, not one line. But perhaps we can tweak it a little and change a few lives for the better, acknowledging the limits, but finding meaning in the small victories, the individual lives saved or helped. Peri reflects that seeing Paul get better actually helped her own healing process, too.
Interesting how witnessing someone else's recovery can help your own. What about Will's future? Is that resolved?
It seems to be heading that way. We get this wonderful letter from Claire Bartlett, the woman Will was writing to. It's also dated May 5th, 1865. She's read Will's letters about Paul, relieved he's alive, hopes he improves.
And
Then she just takes charge. Tells Will she's informed her father they're getting married. Didn't ask, just told him.
Ah, good for her.
Says they've known each other too long, the war's taken too much. They'll marry as soon as Will gets home, at his father's house apparently. His dad wants music and laughter in the house again.
Mm.
Both fathers are pleased, pretending they knew it all along.
That's lovely.
And Claire's final words are just pure commitment. Whatever Will decides about the Army, she'll be by his side. She belongs nowhere else. As
Oh.
this strong anchor of love and stability for Will in all the uncertainty.
So there's a wedding to look forward to.
Yes, the doctor announces they have an engagement to keep. Wants to take Paul back for it too. Puri's excited, dancing, food, raiding the TARDIS wardrobe. But she feels it's still a little too soon to leave the quiet healing place. Erimem agrees, gives the doctor what Peri calls her Bambi look.
And the doctor caves.
He does. Says they came to relax, and hey, with the time machine, they can never be late for anything.
True enough.
The final image Peri leaves us with is her and Erimem walking off together, sharing a secret laugh, like conspirators who got their way. And Peri wonders if this close bond, this feeling, is what having a sister is like.
It's a really hopeful note to end on, that sense of found family after everything they went through.
It really is. And looking back at all these sources together, it gives such a complex, really moving picture of that terrible time. You see the huge historical forces, the politics, the economics, the sheer brutality of people like Eustace.
Yeah, but it's always grounded in the personal, isn't it?
Always. The broken friendship between Will and Paul. The specific terror Peri and Erimem face because of race. Paul's deep, silent suffering. The incredible resilience and hope you see in Moses and George, despite everything. The small acts of courage, resistance, rescue.
It hammers home that history isn't just, dates and battles and books. It's the sum total of all these individual lives.
Exactly. Lives shaped by their time, definitely. But these sources show people wrestling with really universal things. Loyalty, prejudice, trauma, trying to hold on to their humanity.
Or tragically losing it like Paul almost did, or like Eustace did entirely.
Right. And connecting it to the bigger picture. It's a stark reminder, isn't it?
Yeah.
The trauma of these deep societal wounds, it doesn't just vanish when the shooting stops.
No way.
The work of healing, of reconciliation, of rebuilding, personally, like for Paul and Peri, but also for a whole nation, like Ling was trying to start.
Yeah.
It's a long, hard road.
Requires empathy, support, like Will gave Paul, like Erimem gave Peri, and just sheer courage to face the scars. Will saw that rebuilding might be harder than the war itself.
Which kind of leaves us with a question for you, the listener, doesn't it? Thinking about these stories, in the face of these massive historical forces, these crushing personal traumas, how do individuals find a way to heal? How do they forgive themselves or others? How do they rebuild their lives, their connections?
Something to definitely ponder.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive. It was a truly powerful collection of sources, and we hope it's given you a richer, maybe more human understanding of the American Civil War, seen through this unique lens.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a completely new topic.